Hi, welcome to episode 57. In this episode, I will be continuing from where we left off in the previous episode, which is on how to manage when you have multiple research requests or you're getting an influx of research requests that you can't handle by yourself, or it's just becoming very overwhelming. So let's get into it. In the last episode, I talked about how you can manage this influx from a process level, which is like creating systems and templates and SOPs, also creating a panel for your research, and then also creating a resource bank for yourself in trying to create your reports and deliverables and artifacts, and then also in democratizing research, empowering your team to be able to do research effectively. Some specific kinds of research effectively, things that are most connected to their own work. And in this episode, I'll be focusing on how to manage individual requests one-on-one. The first thing you need to do when someone comes to you with a research request, and even if like you're not drowning in research, but just as the thing to do is to ask them why, and not in like a rude way. So as we know, when people say they want something, sometimes they are just articulating how they think they can get what they want, not what they actually want. There's an idea that encapsulates this that I heard first from Jared Spool, which is about active needs and latent needs. So active needs is when the user describes the need that they have, but then latent needs are things that are the needs that are invisible to them. They don't know that they have it until you ask them questions or find ways to uncover what the latent need is. And so it's the same thing you apply here. If a product manager or someone else comes to you to say, I need a survey, or I need you to run a survey, you should just go and then run a survey the same way you won't just give the user like the exact thing they said word for word until you get to the bottom of why, to see what is the need behind it. So you should ask this PM or whoever, like, why do you want to run a survey? What do you want to find out from the survey? And then you use your researcher hat and give them suggestions on like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do a survey, but we should do this instead, and give the PM or whoever like insights on what you know as a researcher are the approaches you can take to meet that goal that they have. So maybe you can say, if we do 2 weeks of field studies, we'll gain an in-depth understanding of this across these user segments. But then because we have only 2 days, I can do a survey and then later on do some more qualitative interviews to get more insights about the survey. Or I can, if you can give me 2 days instead of 1 day, I can do some remote interviews and give you these kinds of insights afterwards. Like, I may not be able to give you a full report, but I can share this and that. So that way you're managing the expectations and you're also understanding how to get them, you're helping them understand what can get them to the best version of what they actually want to get, and you're giving them the options to choose. You're involving them in the decision making process basically, and you're doing this by educating them basically about the different kinds of research approaches that you can take and the trade-offs and the delivery time that the different approaches will require. The second thing is kind of like an extension of this first thing, which is to ask how they think they will use the insights from the research. Again, we know that people cannot predict the future necessarily, but if someone is coming to ask you to do research, they should have a sense of what they want to use the insights for. Because I know that for most researchers, it can be very frustrating when you spend a lot of time doing research and doing all this work, and then your insights are discarded, never to be thought of again. And there's a whole conversation on how to present your insights to make them more actionable and more engaging and on and on. But that's not what I'm focusing on here. I'm talking about in a situation where you've done all the things that you're supposed to do to get people interested in your insights and making them actionable and all of that, and the insights are actually not used. So one way to solve for that is to, from the beginning, ask them like, how do you think you will use this? Where do you think this will be this will make an impact? So are they going to use the insights from this research to make a decision about whether to buy something or build something, or are they going to use the insights from the research that you're going to do to make a decision about whether to close off a particular product that they started building, or to build a new feature. Like, you need to know how they want to use those insights, and they also need to know, so that when you give them the insights, then they know how they want to take action. And if they can't articulate how they think they will use the research, it most likely means that they haven't thought deeply about what the research can actually do for them, but they're just trying to tick a I've done the research box. And these things are the kinds of questions that you include in a research intake form, like I referred to in the previous episode. Another side of what this looks like is, and to help you prioritize, is to look for previous research that has been done. So you want to know if there are any insights that they already have, where those insights have come from, if there's any research that has already been done within the organization, in your team, in any other team around that topic already. That way, then you can make a decision about, can we move forward based on the information we know, keeping that these are the potential risks and the how we can address them in the future, or we can move forward with these insights already, design something, test that, or actually build something, and these are the success metrics for how we'll measure that this is right. So that way you're putting your research efforts where they're actually needed. Or it may be that they don't know like what to do next. They may already have those insights, but they don't know what to do next. So you can then do some insights gathering, some desk research, and then make suggestions on how to proceed using one of the ways that I just talked about, which is like, okay, we can actually just design something and test that with users, do a concept test, a usability test, a prototype test, or we can actually build something depending on the level of confidence you have in the sources of those insights that already exist. That way you know, like, okay, you don't need to do foundational research again, or you can leave foundational research for a later time, like when you've launched, and these are the metrics that you're going to measure the success of the launch against after a certain amount of time. And something that can help you with this, and which lies more on the operation side, is having a repository, however that looks like for you. I've used SharePoint, I've used Excel, I've used Miro in different places, I've used Jira, like whatever makes sense for you, for your team, use that to create a repository. Another thing that you want to ask them is, based on that first point of how would this be used, you want to know if they've already made a decision. If they've already made a decision and they're already building, and there's little to no change that this research can do now, but you have other things, other research on your plate, then you can deprioritize that research, because they've already done something. Like, they're not going to change anything anytime soon because of the research that you're going to do. So you might be able to deprioritize that and focus on something else that is more important. And on a larger organizational scale, you want to also think about the possible impact of that research. Like, what does it actually impact? What's based on the responses that the person who is coming to you to do research gives? Like, what would the insights from this research actually impact? What organizational goals? And are those goals priority? So then you work on the projects, or devote more energy and resources to the projects that are more closely and clearly aligned with the business priorities, and the projects that there is a larger risk of things going wrong if you don't do the research for those projects. So that's like how to prioritize. Like, after you've received all of the information and asked all the questions that I have broken down, such as why they want to do the research, what kinds of things they want to find out, how exactly they will use the insights from the research, and all of those things. Once you've gathered all of that information, what other research exists, all these things, the next thing to do, and this is where you now actually do the prioritizing, is based on all the research plans and projects and requests that you have coming in at the moment, which ones have the most impact on a very important business goal or team goal, which of those goals, in order of priority, what goals are more important than the others, and what projects map to those goals specifically, and focus on that. And another lever you can look at is, what is the risk of not doing this research for this project, or delaying the research to a later time when there's less things on your plate. So if it's a very really high risk thing, then you want to prioritize those research projects over the ones that are like low risk of not actually doing research at the moment, because one of the ways that people think about research is that it helps you to reduce the risks of making a bad decision. And I'm going to give like a random personal example to think about it. You want to buy a gift for someone, you can buy them anything, right? And if you don't find out about them and what they like, then the chances are, at best, you buy them a gift that's just okay, doesn't really spark joy. And at worst, you buy them a gift that they hate, they can't use, they're allergic to, or something terrible like that. But if you do some research about them, then it's fine. You can get them something that is useful to them. And if you place that in context of risk and impact, if it depends on how important that person is to you. If it's a random person, maybe a friend of a friend of a friend that you just like want to feel nice towards and buy them a gift, then maybe you don't need to spend too much time like gathering insights about what they like and what they need. But if it's somebody that you love, maybe your partner, your child, a very dear friend to you, then you will spend more time like understanding them and what they need to buy them a gift that will actually spark joy. So you don't want to just tick a box. You want to actually spark joy when you give them a gift. And so take that same approach and that concept into determining how you prioritize the research. So if you have two people that you want to buy gifts for, you have enough money to buy something expensive or something really dear for one person and not the other person, you most likely spend more time doing research around what to buy for the person who is more important to you than the other, right? So yeah, I hope this helps. If you have any more questions, please fill the questions form that I will put in the show notes. Thank you for listening. Bye. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of A Couple of Things. If you enjoyed this episode or found any part of it insightful, don't forget to share with your friends on your social media, and be sure to leave a comment or a review if you can on your podcast listening app. Thank you.